I will just start record, and so this is not live, so we can just edit out the boring parts or whatever you don't want, so
Okay, that's
there's
fine.
no pressure in like performing, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a bit. I'm not sure how to do this because I've never done it not on live. But
Uh, I mean, I guess
usually what I
I guess
start
we can
is,
start
huh?
like with an introduction.
Yeah, that's usually how I start it. Like
Okay.
I'll let you. Usually I make an intro, which is a bit weird to do when you're not live, but uh,
Yeah.
but mm, I mean, I guess you can just introduce yourself if you want to.
Okay. Okay. I mean, uh, I guess we could do like or I mean, we could do it exactly like you do it when we're live. But
Mm.
just like we're not really live.
Yeah. No, I'll. The goal is ultimately to have more like conversation, I guess, which is when you're doing live, it usually doesn't really turn out into a conversation. It's more like a
Uh,
question answer.
yeah.
That's what I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
trying to do this time. But
Okay.
let me see. I'll just try and find my note. But yeah, how about you want to introduce yourself? No, wait. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Well, my name is Dagoberto. It's a very long name. Uh,
Mm.
but most people call me Daigo. And I am the developer of Dono's Tale, an action platformer that takes a lot of inspiration from classic like 16 and 32-bit platformers.
Okay. I'm trying to find my notes right now.
I probably should have gotten notes as well.
Let me see. Okay, I found some. So you introduce yourself.
Awesome. Yeah.
Uh, so maybe is there some kind of backstory about your game? Uh, how did
Uh,
you get the idea and why did you want to make a game like this? Stuff like that.
s- so that's actually really, really interesting. Because the game goes back like a very long time. Um, Back when I was still in high school. Um, so
Oh, that's a
I
long time
originally,
ago. I
well,
think. I mean, I'm not sure how
it,
old you are, but
it's not that long actually, not that long. Probably. I mean, I graduated what, like 4 years ago.
Hmm.
Uh, so it's not that long ago.
It's a decent
Uh,
time ago.
True, true. Man, I still can't believe that like the Nintendo Switch came out while I was in high school.
Oh.
Oh, that's crazy. But so I originally had I'll probably start from like the very very start.
Mm-hmm.
Because I originally was introduced to like crowdfunding and all that stuff through I had in time, right?
Mm.
So that was the very first game that I ever saw that was like, oh man, it's like a crowdfunding uh and all that stuff. And I'm not sure if that was before or after Shovel Knight.
Mm.
Uh One of those two, right?
Shovel Knight was
Well,
crowdfunded? I didn't know that.
yeah. Yeah, Shovel Knight was a Kickstarter game.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah, so like uh that's when that was one of those things where it's like, oh man, that's so cool, right? I always had that in mind. I was like, oh, that's so cool. It's like you could make a project and
Mm.
have show it off to people and just have it like come like be able to like get funded uh get funded and actually work on this project that you're trying to make. And I always found
Mm.
that super super cool. uh so yeah, some time passes and I got into it's like a small little programming class in my high school.
Mm.
and I always wanted to make video games, right? Since I was very little, I would always carry like my little Game Boy Advance
We also had
everywhere.
like a we had like a game design class, they called it at our school, but it
You
was
see,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead, finish.
Oh yeah, we had like a game design class at our school, and it was like it wasn't actually game design. It was just like kind of like game maker, doing basic game maker stuff, and then publishing it on the App Store. It was very weird. But I
That's it.
assume yours was like a proper programming, or
Yes. So we had like different tiers, right? So like depending on what grade you were in, you would
mm,
get into that like certain class, right? Um, so first off, we started with like a regular programming class. So it was like your regular like HTML, right? Like just like making websites and stuff like that.
mm,
Uh, JavaScript and like very like basic, programming.
mm.
Uh, but I believe it was my senior year where they finally gave us like the game design class. It was not a game design class. We never made a game
Yeah,
in that
that's
class.
basically it. There was the same here. Like when I saw the advertisement and I saw what they were doing, I was like, yeah, I'm not taking that course. No, I'm not doing that.
Y- Yeah, it was not it was not that. But like it was pretty funny because there was like four people in that class. Uh
Oh no, at my school it was really popular. Everyone wanted to take it.
You see, the thing that we had is that like, uh, I'm pretty sure it was popular, but like you had like requirements,
Oh.
to get into that class. So you had to take two programming classes before you could
Mhm.
take that class. And like nobody would make it out of the first one.
Yeah, okay. Here it was more like
uh,
at my school it was more like let's make a game and have fun. Like everyone can participate kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, like well, specifically because she's an amazing teacher, but like nobody she would go like really fast
Mhm.
through like the material. So like a lot of people that were just starting to program, they would get lost so quickly,
Oh.
right? So there was so many people coming out of that programming class. They were just complaining and complaining. They're like, "Oh man, I don't
Mhm.
get this. I don't know what to do. I'm stuck." Right?
Mm.
So that's why like a lot of people who were introduced to like programming through that class, they didn't really stick with it because
Mm.
like I guess they just thought it was a bit too hard for them. But those who were able to like catch up, you know we actually
Mm.
made it to the next class, right? Um,
Mm.
and so, at the end of the day, by my senior year, it was only four of us left in that class. Um, so yeah, that's why like it was honestly, it was pretty much just a free class
Mhm.
because the teacher was like, okay, you guys just make something that has to do with making a game
Mhm.
and show it to me, and I will grade you based off of that. So
Mm.
we would spend a lot of time doing random stuff.
So
Uh, so
there wasn't like any actual game design theory or anything. It was just make a
th-
game.
sorta, right? So we did have to go through all those things. Like she gave us pointers, right? So like
Mhm.
resources and stuff like that, right? But like it wasn't like a class. It was kind of like a self study.
Mhm.
It was kind of like a self study, and then we would like get to make like presentations about games, and
Mm.
we would get to make like stuff like that, and she would just kind of grade us based off of
Mhm.
whatever we presented.
Yeah.
uh so it was a bit like weird
Mhm.
for a game design class, but again, I'm pretty sure she just did that because we were so few people in that class.
Mm.
uh but like, anyways, I got so off topic with
Oh
that.
no, that's totally fine.
But yeah, so it was around that time. I think it was around that time where I also got introduced to another little game that was a complete disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that game was called Mighty Number Nine.
Mighty Number
Um,
9.
yes. So I'm not sure if you've heard of this game before, but it
Oh,
is
I think I've
also
seen this before.
yes.
It
You
kind of
most
looks like
likely have
Mega
seen it.
Wait, no, I think I remember this.
Yes.
Was it like
So
supposed to be a Mega Man like successor?
yes, it was exactly it was supposed to be a Mega Man successor, but and it was made by one of the main guys that worked on the Mega Man franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so you got the main guy. He didn't really create the Mega Man franchise, but he kind of like directed most of them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so like you got the main guy, and he's crowdfunding this brand new Mega Man. And at the time, there was like no Mega Mans, right? The last
Mm-hmm.
Mega Man was probably like Mega Man 10, and that was back in like I want to say 2010.
Yeah.
Uh so like there had not been Mega Man in like a long time. Everybody wanted a new Mega Man, and
Mm.
so that it got a bunch of money, right, on Kickstarter, and then it came out and
And it
it
was
was not
bad.
good. Yes. It was not good at all, and like it was so bad. um it just like when it came to like designing like the level design and everything, it was just terrible, right? The
Mm-hmm.
gameplay, like the character itself controlled pretty well. It felt like Mega Man, right?
Mm.
But the game itself was just not very well designed. Uh,
Mm.
and so, I got into this like rabbit hole of like all these documentaries explaining like why or what went wrong, and like what they did
Mm-hmm.
wrong, the level design and all that stuff on YouTube, right? I was just watching those, and that's when I got the inspiration. I was like, you know what? I think I can make a better game than Mighty Number Nine on
That's
my own.
that's interesting that you say that because I get that sense from a lot of indie developers that I've observed or even talked to, that it's usually it starts by them being disappointed in a game and then wanting to try and do it better.
Yeah, yeah,
Like the people from Kindred Fates were exactly the same story. They were disappointed by the direction Pokemon is heading and then wanted to make their own spin on it.
yeah. I feel like a lot of the time, like indie developers they sort of, it's like that thing where like it's like if you're not gonna do it, then I'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how the attitude of most indie developers is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
I guess
hey,
it's like being when you're a fan of a series and you're like, oh, I really wish they would do this and that, and then you learn programming and you're like, wait, I could just do it myself.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's like, hey, I have this computer and I know how to use it and I know how
Yeah,
to like program and stuff,
but then in reality,
might
it's
as
a
well
little
use
bit
it.
more difficult.
It really is, right? But
Yeah.
again, that's how most indie developers start, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize, oh man, what did I get myself into?
Mm.
And but like again, it's like some people will stick with it and they'll be like, okay, it might be hard, but I can make it through.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and but some people might just be like, oh, it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
It was a nice distraction. I learned something from it. Uh, uh, but yeah, like a lot of indie developers kind of just start that way.
Mm.
Uh, but yeah, like I was saying earlier with like the Mighty Number Nine, I was honestly really disappointed. Because I bought the game, right, and I played it, and I was like,
Mm.
it's like there's like very fundamental like mistakes that they made, and
Mm-hmm.
what I couldn't understand is how did they make those like mistakes, right? It's like they're really
It's.
obvious.
I
Uh,
mean, I guess the person in charge just they wasn't in charge of those specific areas, maybe?
Well, the thing that was a lot of
Or
the
like in his
documentaries
previous, like, sorry, in his like previous games, Mega Man games, he was maybe wasn't in charge in those areas that he failed in. Maybe I'm just guessing.
probably, but again, from my understanding, like he as a director, he oversees the entire project. Um, and so like it was kind of like his job to point out like what was wrong if nobody else was kind of pointing out what was wrong. And if somebody that like
Mm-hmm.
has you know, never actually released a commercial game before, like could point those those
Mm-hmm.
mistakes out. I don't understand how somebody with that much experience
Yeah.
could not see those mistakes, right? Uh, but like from what I saw from uh in the documentaries, they pointed out they're like, oh, they just did not know how to crowdfund, right? So they
Mm-hmm.
didn't know that they were gonna get like that like Kickstarter was gonna get a cut, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and they didn't
They didn't
know
know
that.
that.
Yeah, they didn't know that, so they didn't budget for that. They
Wow.
did not budget for that apparently. So their budget was like all over the place. Like they did
Oh my
not
god.
have enough money. Uh, they didn't have enough money. In like the way that they set up their like company, there was a lot of like miscommunication. There was just a lot of stuff going on, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that that's most likely why it ended up happening like that. Not only that, but like they promised to like port the game to like 20 different consoles,
Oh my
which
god.
is not good. So like
That
they
can't very
promised.
difficult.
Yeah, I mean, from what I remember, they had PS3 and Xbox 360 versions along with like Xbox One and like
Mm-hmm.
PS4. They had like a Wii U version, they had a PS Vita, they had a 3DS version. And
Oh,
so like yeah, like they had to port, and then they had the PC port.
3DS
They
as
had like
well.
yes, and they never delivered on that. They never made
Hmm.
it.
I
So
mean, I'm
like to
not
this
surprised on
day,
that front.
yeah. Um but yeah, like it's, a lot of stuff went wrong with that project, and
Mm-hmm.
that was one of the inspirations that I had. I was like, hey, look, I think I can make a better Mega Man game than this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love Mega Man. I've played Mega Man. I played a lot of them. My personal favorite would be Mega Man 3.
Mm-hmm.
Um
I
and
feel
I
like
said,
you're
hey,
sorry. I feel like you're probably going to get into this, but I'll just ask just in case. How do you go from Mega Man to a Yoshi's World kind of game?
okay. I will be getting into that. I will
Okay,
be
okay.
getting
Then
into
you can just continue. I was just gonna ask just in case.
Yeah, because so yeah, I started with like the Mega Man game, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I ended up creating this character, and like I put it in a prototype. So this is a completely different game that I'm talking about right now. So
Mm-hmm.
this is my first like project that I was trying to make, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's
Uh
the one for school.
no, actually no, I was doing
Oh,
this on
okay,
my free time.
okay,
Uh, I did show it off at my school. Like I did use
okay.
it as part of like but I was doing it on my free
Mm-hmm.
time, right? Uh,
Yeah.
so it was a little Mega Man clone. You had this little boy character, and he had like a little gun, and he was just running around. Uh, and there was abilities that you could like get, sort of like in Mega Man. Um, and what I had in that prototype would later become Dono's Tale a
Mm-hmm.
couple years after. Because I wasn't really satisfied with that prototype, and then I moved on to a different style of game. Uh, I was like, okay, you know what? I wasn't really satisfied with the Mega Man style. I was kind of getting a little bit bored of it. So I ended up moving over to a precision platformer, right? So I've always liked difficult games. Um, like, you I guess you could
Like
say like
Kaizo
Super Meat
Mario?
Boy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I've always liked super, super difficult games. And I said, you know what?
Mm.
I think I have to reduce the scope of my game, right? Because I wasn't really satisfied with the Mega Man style game. It was starting to balloon. It was starting to get like too big for what I could handle. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna make a smaller game, and it's just gonna be a very simple, like precise platformer game. Um, where you just jump and dash, right? You
Mm-hmm.
just jump and you dash, and it's just obstacles, no enemies, just like like spikes and stuff that will kill you, but nothing really complicated. Um, and then Celeste got announced, and I was upset because
Because
my
that's what you
game
wanted to
looked
do?
because my game had the exact same mechanics, the exact same look as
The
well.
climbing as well?
It well, it I did have a version of the climbing, but it was more like kind of like the wall jumps. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it was more like yeah, you could grab ledges, right? You could grab
Mm-hmm.
ledges and you could like wall jump like in Mega Man
Mm-hmm.
X. So it wasn't exactly the same thing, but it was like so similar, and I was so upset.
Maybe if you still
uh,
have images, I could show it on screen in the
I
YouTube video.
I don't think I do.
Okay.
However, I might have a PS Vita prototype of that on my
Mm-hmm.
PS Vita. So
Oh,
I may be able to take like off-screen footage of it.
yeah.
Uh
That would be cool if I could include that.
okay. Yeah, because I do have from like the original Mega Man, I do have like a build of that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh so I could probably show that off as well.
Mm.
Um
Yeah, that
but
would be
yeah,
really
like
cool.
it was like it was a it was almost like Celeste. Like it was almost like the same
Mm-hmm.
concept and everything. It's just get to the ending and like you would just dash. The thing about it is that I didn't have like directional dashing. I only had
Mm-hmm.
like sideways dashing
Mm.
in my game. And that's why I was so upset. I was like, man, it's like these
Like I
guys
had
beat me
it.
to the punch.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I had the same idea, what they did it better and faster.
Yeah, yeah, they did it better. And I was just upset. I was, oh man. And this is a reoccurring thing, right? This
Mm-hmm.
keeps happening to me throughout like time, right?
Yeah.
Even in Dono itself, right? In my current project, this has happened before. Um,
I have
so
kind of actually have kind of a similar story, and people never want to believe me. You know Pokemon Go?
yeah,
When like a year or two before Pokemon Go released, there was still the Miiverse, and as a
yeah, yeah,
yeah, like as a little kid, I was like, surely they check all of the messages on the Miiverse, right? Like as a kid, I was just imagining Miyamoto reading every message on the Miiverse. So I had like an idea for a Pokemon game because if you know the 3DS had like the AR feature, like the augmented
yeah.
reality. So I was like, what if you do augmented reality but Pokemon, so you can catch Pokemon in real life with like a camera and everything, and you go around town and you catch Pokemon. And then, then I posted that on the Miiverse and like the idea for it. And 2 years later, Pokemon Go came out, and I was like, holy shit!
I mean,
Because I was like,
didn't
I
they?
posted it because I hoped that they would make a game like that.
Man,
I'm pretty sure they started developing it way before I wrote that, but it's a very funny coincidence.
Yeah, because from what I remember, I think the 3DS did have a game like that where
They
you
had like
would
the
it was
Pokedex.
the AI. Yeah, it must have been the Pokedex
Mm-hmm.
actually. Yeah, it probably was that.
Yeah, my idea was kind of that like the camera would scan the environment and like see if you're in a
Yeah,
forest or if you're in a house, and then different Pokemon would spawn. Then you can catch them like kind of like Face Raiders where you like shoot the ball at them.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It just
Yeah,
sucks
that
that that poor little camera's resolution was
yeah.
terrible.
No, but that was that. I mean, that's kind of a similar story, I guess. Like an idea I had that and got taken by someone else, but
Yeah, yeah. Just like a terrible coincidence,
yeah.
terrible timing. Yeah. So yeah, again, like Celeste happened and I was upset and I said, you know what? I think I'm gonna just start fresh, right?
Mm.
I said, you know what? I'm gonna start fresh. Uh I'm gonna start with something simple. And I think this is like 2018, right?
Mm.
This is probably around like 2018.
Mm.
And uh I'm not sure if you're familiar with a channel called Game Maker's Toolkit.
Oh, I'm very familiar with them.
Okay, okay.
I may
So
or
I'm
may
pretty
not
sure.
be trying to copy them. Or
So
inspired. Let's say inspired.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, so they had that year they had the game jam. I'm pretty sure this was the second year they had the game jam. I'm not sure
Mm-hmm.
if it was the first year or second year. But I said, you know what? I'll enter the game jam. Um, and from what remember, the game jam being is I think the game jam was uh no jumping. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
something like that, where like you couldn't jump or you
Oh.
couldn't press a button to jump or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I ended up making this little prototype. This little game jam game. Uh, and it was a little yellow blob. Um, and what he would do is that he would place bombs, and then you would wait for the bomb to explode, and
Mm-hmm.
it would bounce him up in the air. Um,
So that's the jump.
yeah, so that was the way that you like jumped in the game.
Do you take
So
damage?
no, no,
Okay.
you didn't take any damage because it was more like a puzzle platformer.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so all you really had to do was place bombs, but
Mm-hmm.
the bombs had like different uses
Mm-hmm.
where there was certain blocks. You would place a bomb, you destroy them. There was these uh, platforms like on a rail where like if you place the bomb next to it, um when it explode it would push the platform to the opposite side from where the bomb was at, so you
Mm-hmm.
would use those to like get to a spot where you couldn't get and stuff like that. Um i i also have footage of that as well if you need
Mm-hmm.
me to
Yeah, that would be
send you
cool as
that.
well.
Yeah, so uh I had that, and the name of that game was Dono. Uh,
Oh.
it was Dono's Adventure. That's what the name of that game was.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but it was spelled differently from like my current game. It was spelled DO, and then it had like a slash and then
Mm-hmm.
KNO.
Oh no.
Um, yeah. There's actually a funny story about that as well. There was back in high school. So I took that blob character that the idea of that little blob character from that game jam game came from my high school days where it was me and a friend. We were trying to create like a little character. It was gonna be like a Kirby parody, right? He was
Mm-hmm.
gonna be a little parody of Kirby, but he was gonna be much more like uh a mature kind of like Kirby
Mm-hmm.
character. I'm not sure if you've ever seen those old
Kirby, but he actually murders you.
yeah, I don't know if
Kirby,
you've seen
Kirby,
like
but
those
actually with a knife.
he had a shotgun. He had a double barrel
Oh,
shotgun.
so Kirby, but with an actual gun, not with the toy gun
Yeah.
he has.
Yeah, like I'm not sure if you have seen like the old Kirby commercials where like
Mm-hmm.
he's got like a leather jacket and stuff, and like
A
there's
leather
even
jacket?
like yeah, there's like some old commercials, like really old commercials where like
Leather jacket.
they they should. I'm pretty sure he had a leather jacket. I want to say
I don't think I can find it.
it because
That
like
sounds really funny
even some
though.
promotional there's even some promotional material where like he's in prison and they're like taking mug shots of him. So like that's kind of what like we were going for.
Uh-huh.
Uh and so we were creating this character, but like I'm terrible at coming up with names. So like
Mm-hmm.
I just cannot come up with names. I like I can never think of anything, right? And so me and my friend were trying to come up with a name, and then he tells me I just kind of told him, well, I wrote I don't know on like the little paper, and then he's like Dono, and I was like, what? And then we're like, oh, we I guess we could call him Dono. That does
Dono.
sound, it
Mm.
sounds all right, and like it comes from the word I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because we just didn't know what to name him. Um,
That is the
so
that is the best backstory for a name I've ever heard.
so yeah, so like the name stuck, right? The name stuck, but like this was like a little yellow blob, and there is a sprite of it on my Twitter. I'm not sure if you've seen it.
Mm.
Um, but I did post like the evolution of the sprites, and the very first sprite is that yellow, like that little yellow blob.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I took that
Oh, I
name,
found
I
it.
took that character. Yeah, I took that character and I put him into the game jam game. I said, you know what, I'm gonna use this character. I made this
Mm-hmm.
character, I'm gonna use it. Uh, and so that's how it started, right? That's how the
Mm.
game started. That's how, you know. And then I said, you know what, I kind of like this. It's pretty
Mm-hmm.
fun. I thought it was fun. It was really difficult though. It's a really difficult game.
Mm.
Uh, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna continue it. I'm gonna continue it. And I kept working on it, I kept doing it, and then later I said, "You know what? What if I take my old project, like my first Mega Man project, and I combine it with this one?" Um, so again I went back to like the drawing board and I said, "Okay, if I want to combine these two projects, I feel like I should create a new character. I should create a little something cute, right? Something cutesy, but like uh different enough. Uh but how do I say it? Well, I just wanted like a really cutesy character, right? I wanted to go with something like that.
Mm.
And I said, okay. I started sketching. There's also this is probably in my Twitter. It's probably like a couple posts like under
Mm-hmm.
the the that sprite where like I was sketching out some characters, and so I sketched out like a little raccoon, like a little ball raccoon,
Mm.
and I was like, that's all right. That's like I don't really think it would work. Um, but then I started sketching out like some little dinosaurs, and I was like, okay, uh, one of them like the first one that I made looked more like a little crocodile type character.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then after that, like I ended up making the like a lot cutesier design uh for like Dono, but like he had his original traits, like
Mm-hmm.
his the little horns he has on the side of his head and stuff like that. Like that was already there, like his little belly. He just didn't have the bow tie. The bow tie
Mm.
is actually
It's really
from
cute.
the uh it's from older character. So the character from the Mega Man game that I
Mhm.
originally made, he had that bow tie, and I just kind of like moved it over to Dono, and that's
Mhm.
why he has the bow tie.
Yeah, it
Uh,
definitely makes the character look way better. I think without it, it feels like there's something missing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So like you could probably see that like in the original sprite, he does not have the
Mm.
bow tie on. But like after the next sprite does have the bow tie on. Um,
Mm.
uh, but yeah, I ended up taking a lot of elements from the Mega Man game and putting it into Dono. And that's why the gameplay is so similar to something like Mega Man X. The gameplay feels like Mega Man X,
Mm.
with a little bit of like Donkey Kong Country in there. Uh, but so here's where like the transition happens, where the Cheese Island style comes in. So one of the biggest things when I had the character and um I was trying to come up with like an art direction, right? Because I didn't want my indie game, to like look just like every other game out there, right? It's because there's a bunch of games that use the 8-bit aesthetic.
Mhm.
Uh, and I was originally gonna go with an 8-bit aesthetic, but
Mm.
I didn't like how limiting it was. It was very limiting, uh, and the sprites were so small. I've always been a big fan of like arcade games.
Mm.
So like specifically like fighting games, because I've always loved like the big sprites, like the really big like character
Mhm.
sprites and stuff like that. So I wanted my character to have like enough detail in him. So instead of going for an 8-bit aesthetic, I said, you know what? I'm gonna do 16-bit, right? Uh, so I said, okay, I'll do 16-bit, and I was looking at like 16-bit games, and again, I just wasn't really satisfied with a lot of them because there was a lot of uh um games that already use the 16-bit aesthetic, but none of
Mm.
them really kind of like stood out to me, right? They all kind of like meshed together. Uh, and there wasn't something that again, that like stood out and I said, wow, this is great. So I said, okay, I'm gonna go back to the games that I played as a kid, right? And so I'm pretty sure I mentioned this earlier, but as a kid, like I would always carry a little Game Boy with me,
Oh, I
like
don't think we've
everywhere I
mentioned
went.
that.
So I would always carry like a little Game Boy with me. I started off with like a Game Boy Color,
Mhm.
and I was always carrying that with me everywhere I went. And then I think it was either for Christmas or my birthday. Uh, it might have been like for both,
Mhm.
because like my birthday is so close to Christmas, anyways. But
Oh.
um, I got a Game Boy Advance, right? I got a Game Boy Advance, and uh, I the first game I got for that was Mario Brothers 3, I believe.
Mm.
Uh, so it's like I absolutely love that game, right? And over time I started getting more games, and I ended up having the entire Mario Advance collection. So it was Mario 2, Mario Brothers 3, Mario World, and Yoshi's Island, right? And I loved Yoshi's Island. I absolutely
Mhm.
loved Yoshi's Island. Um, it was one of my favorite games along with Mario 3. Uh, and I would play it all the time. I would just play it all the time whenever I got the chance.
Did you 100% it?
Yes, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, I mean, as a kid, I a
multiple
hundred
times?
like probably. I'm pretty sure I had all three save files.
Mhm.
Because I remember as a kid, I pretty sure I 100% most of my games, which I still find it incredibly surprising because
Mhm.
I recently, when Mario Sunshine came out for the Switch, right?
Mhm.
The 3D collection, I replayed Mario Sunshine, and as I was playing, I was like, "There's no way that I 100% completed this game as a kid. There's absolutely no way." But
Mhm.
I
Especially
remember
without the
doing it.
internet.
Yeah, I was so surprised. I was like, "There's no way I actually sat here and found all these blue coins."
Mhm.
Uh, but like I remember doing it, and I also remember like stuff like in Mario Kart Double Dash. I remember there is that one like super long cup where it's all you have to play through uh all of the tracks in one go to 100% complete that game. Uh and I've done that again. I replayed that and it took me a long time, and I was just so surprised. I was like, "Oh man, I spent a long time playing like video games when I was a kid."
Mhm.
But yeah, like I absolutely loved those games. I'm pretty sure like I and I don't know why this memory is so clear to me, but I remember one time I lost my Mario Brothers 3 at like a store or something.
Oh
And
no.
like for that entire week I begged my mom to buy me another one. Like I was just
Mhm.
begging her to buy me another one. And she ended up buying it for me. Uh,
Mm.
and it was like I had another excuse to like 100% that game again. uh, but yeah, so like I played a lot of those games. I didn't have a Super Nintendo growing up, but I did
Mhm.
have a Nintendo 64 and a GameCube. And I had like, my Game Boy Color and my Game Boy Advance. And so um like I spent a lot of time playing those games, and that's where I said, "You know what? Nobody has made something similar to Yoshi's Island." Like
Mm.
I there hasn't been like a big indie game that tries to take that aesthetic and take it further, you know?
Yeah, I think you've definitely hit the nail with that one, I think. I mean, I wouldn't know. Maybe there's another indie game. I wouldn't know of any, but
I mean,
usually, yeah.
I want to believe that there is one out there, but like it probably not as big of a project.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably just like a really short game that like tries to take the same art style, right? Um,
Mm. Yeah, usually
but
when I look at game
go ahead.
trailers, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, go ahead.
Usually when I look at game trailers or like gameplay and I look at the comments from indie games, when it's like 8-bit or 16-bit, there's very little comments about the art style usually because there's just so many indie games that are in that style. But with your game, I've seen quite a lot of comments about it, that it reminds them of Yoshi's Island or even other games.
Yeah.
So I think
So
that is something that sticks out a lot.
yeah, and like that's exactly what I wanted because I know that like my game would probably not get as much attention if it
Hmm.
wasn't for the art style and the character. Like
Yeah.
if I'm being really honest. uh, and again, that's fine because that is one of the big appeals of the game itself.
Hmm.
That it's cute. It looks, everybody loves the character. Everybody loves Dono. That's the one thing that I've always gotten when it comes to like comments, even like
Oh, everyone loves cute stuff.
yeah, even at like conventions. So we set up like sometimes we have booths in conventions and stuff like that. Um, and yeah, like everybody tells us it was like, oh my god, he's so cute. We really love his
Hmm.
design. It's like, do you have any like
How do you
merchandise of the character?
how do you get to do conventions? Is it like a thing you have to apply for, or do you get invited, or how does it work?
It's a it's a per convention thing where like each convention is different.
Mhm.
Uh, so like some of them you do get invited, you get to go for free,
Mhm.
right? Some of them you have to pay for it. It could be usually like 100 to 100 like $50 for like
Oh,
smaller
damn.
conventions. Yeah. So like it gets expensive. Uh, but like those are smaller conventions. It's
Mm.
nothing compared to like the bigger conventions where they could charge you up to like $3,000 for a
Mm.
booth. So it's it's ridiculous. But like luckily a lot of those you can apply for be like, hey, we're indie developers, we don't have that kind of
Mm.
money, but we still want to show off the game. And then sometimes you can ask and apply and they'll let
Mm.
you in for free, right? They'll give you like a booth and stuff.
Yeah.
Uh and so yeah, like I think that the most expensive one that I've ever like gone to was like $500 for a
Mhm.
booth. Uh, and I think that was my first convention too.
Mm.
um, and it was horrible. It was terrible.
Oh.
And I'll probably get into that later, but it was a terrible experience. Uh,
Mhm.
but so yeah, I was talking about like the art style. Um, yeah, I want to make something unique, something that would stand out if you put it next to like a bunch of uh, um other games, right? Like other indie games. Um because yeah, like I have also gotten like comments, like I asked some people, it's like, do you think my game stands out when like I put it next to like a different indie game?
Mhm.
I've asked like some family members, like I put like Shovel Knight next to my game and be like, oh, which one do you think stands out the most? And they're like, oh, like I really like this one. The
Mm.
uh yeah, the aesthetic of Dono. Um it's not a fair comparison, honestly, because like Dono is closer to a 32-bit game,
Yeah.
while Shovel Knight has the 8-bit aesthetic. So naturally it's probably it's not like as appealing
Mm.
when it comes to colors and stuff like that. So but I still wanted to get like opinions and stuff like that. Um but yeah, like and
Yeah,
this is one of the
especially
things.
oh,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, especially younger generations, like I'm talking like very young, uh don't seem to find pixel art appealing. Like if you talk to like people that are like 10 or 6 years old, they will not like pixel art at all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of the time it's so man, I might get into a tangent here. Like because if I've always been a very character oriented person.
Mhm.
So like I love character design. It's one of like the things that like I really want to do.
Oh, I was actually
As a
gonna ask something about that. I'm not. Maybe you'll be going to answer my question right now. I'm not sure.
uh okay, well go ahead, ask me.
The question is how would you, let me see, where was it? Like, wait, I can't find the question longer. I think you already kind of answered that, but I guess more what are like your, I guess, design philosophies when making your character, maybe, since a lot of people praise the character itself. Like that is one of the
Okay.
things that sticks out with the game.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'll get into it. I'll answer
Mm-hmm.
the question. So
Yeah.
again, I I'm a very character oriented person.
Mm-hmm.
So like I love a good character. Like I love character design and I love to make, create characters and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. Characters that appeal to people and like that would appeal to like anybody, right? Um
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, like that is one of my like my main philosophies when it comes to characters, where if you don't have an appealing character, it's like I sometimes just don't care as much,
Mm-hmm.
right? Uh, like there's a lot of indie games, right? There's a lot of indie games where like they have a character, but it's literally just like a frog, right? It's there's nothing to it other than like it being like a frog. And it's like I don't want to be mean, right? Because there's nothing wrong with just being a frog, right? There's nothing wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think I know which game you're referring to, but I don't know the name
well,
of it. Is it
well,
3D?
no, 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 no. I'm not
Okay.
referring to any specific like
Oh,
game. I'm
okay.
just saying like, because like I just thought of a frog because like there's that meme where it's like frog likes, like
Oh.
that's the new indie game trend. Frog likes every game
Oh,
has a
okay.
frog now. So
Oh,
that's why I
cause
just
I
thought
saw
of a frog.
like I saw on the Twitter you had been playing like a new like N64
Oh,
style S
frog
game, and it
gun.
had like a
Yeah,
very
yeah.
frog-esque theme. So I was thinking
Is it?
maybe you're referring to that.
Oh no, 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 no. That one is great because that one actually has like a character, an appealing character that like
Mm-hmm.
uh
Okay.
but like I'm talking about like games that just like they don't really have like you know a character design attached to them, right? Like a mascot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Games that just kind of like it's just pixel art and it's just whatever character. It's not really meant to be appealing. They just kind of use him as like the player character.
Mm.
Uh, I've never really been a big fan of that because you know there's a reason the most popular franchises in the world like are known, again like Pokemon. Pokemon is the most popular franchise in the world. It's because of
It's
the
just
character design.
characters.
Yeah, it's just characters. Uh and then like every popular platformer, like I don't think I could name a popular platformer that does not have a character attached to it,
Mm.
right? So you have your Mario, again, you have Mario, Yoshi's Island,
Sonic.
Yoshi, Sonic, Shovel Knight, Shovel Knight.
Mm-hmm.
It there's always an appealing character attached to it. And that's why I'm so like against creating something without like an appealing character design.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that's why I really like I put a lot of work into Dono himself as a character.
Mm-hmm.
Because from the very start, I I said, well, what color should I make him? And I knew that blue was one of the most popular colors in the world. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so I made him blue, but I didn't specifically make him like dark blue, like like a blue. I made him more like a baby or like a sky
Like
blue.
a Cyan.
Uh, yeah, because I thought it would be a bit more appealing and it would be a lot
Mm-hmm.
easier on the eyes. Uh,
Mm.
and so for his secondary color, is orange, because orange always goes well with blue.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so like I did like some color theory research, and came out with like okay,
Mm-hmm.
orange is a good character, it's a good
Yeah, that's funny because
color.
orange and blue are my favorite colors.
Nice. So I went with that, and so those were the original colors. I said okay, these are some appealing colors, I like it. um so I went with that. And you're probably gonna laugh at this, but like
Mm-hmm.
I did take a lot of inspiration from other characters when designing Dono.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people like the first thing they think is like, oh, Bubble Bobble, you know, like
Never heard of that.
you never heard of Bubble Bobble?
Bubble
The
bubble?
Yeah,
Bubble? Bubble bubble? Oh, like
it's
a dinosaur?
yeah,
Oh, I've seen it before, but I don't think I've ever played it. It's yeah. It seems very old. Not
yeah.
old, but
Oh no, it it was an old arcade game. Uh,
mm-hmm.
but like yeah, like that's the first thing people mention. They're like, oh,
Yeah,
you went to like blah blah blah.
arcade games is like way like after my gaming era.
Oh, I mean,
Way before, not after.
yeah, like oh, that's kind of the thing too. Like, so uh, the area that I was like that I lived in, they had like a bunch of arcades. Like the
Hmm.
arcade scene was still like booming in like the
Yeah.
2010s, right?
No, when I
So
grew
like
up
they
there, yeah, when I grew up, the whole arcade era was completely finished. There was no. I have
yeah,
never been
that's
into an arcade before.
wow, that's crazy. Yeah, like because like again, I'm not that old. Or at least I don't think I'm that old.
No, no,
I'm 20.
I'm
I'm
not saying that.
22.
Okay, you're. Wait, yeah, that's only 2 years older than me.
Oh, yeah, I'm 22. So like I'm not like arcade era old. Oh man,
it could be that it's like a regional difference because I don't think we
y-
have had any arcades in Norway, or at least not very, not a lot.
oh man, I think that I sounded a bit rude to like older generation gamers. We're kind of young. We're kind of young, honestly.
Uh-huh.
uh, but like I
But
did
I got
like
very late
I
into gaming as a kid, so it makes more sense.
uh oh no, I think I was rocking, my Game Boy Color since I was like
Hmm.
3 years old.
Oh no,
So
I got my DS when I was 7. So.
you see, I don't want to say like my parents would never like really buy me the newest games, right? So like
Hmm. Oh
I would always get like the older system, like 2 generations before like whatever system is currently out. Um, because I know that I didn't get my GameCube until the Wii came out
yeah,
because
I
the
had a
GameCube
friend
was
like.
dirt cheap.
I had a friend whose parents were like that. She had like a Game Boy while everyone else was playing on the 3DS.
Oh man, I was rocking my Game Boy Advance until like 2012.
Hmm.
And like because like that's when I completely skipped the DS and I went straight to the 3DS
Hmm.
because like I I saved up money and like I bought that with myself.
I didn't
Um
even get the DS. I got the DSi,
mm,
like the special version.
yeah. Yeah, no, like I yeah, like oh man, I don't think I even got a Wii until like 2013.
I never got a Wii.
You never got a Wii?
No,
Wow.
my first ever home console was the Switch.
Wow, really?
Yeah, my parents were very strict with gaming.
Oh man, that's crazy. Then you, oh man, it's cool. Like it's cool in a way because now you get to experience all these games. Like
Hmm.
there's a bunch of games you get to experience for the first time.
Mm.
Um, and like you actually get to remember that experience
Hmm.
because like as a kid, like I don't remember like half of the like how I beat like half of the games that I have beaten.
Yeah,
Again, because I was out
when I moved out, like the first thing I did was just like immediately head to the store, buy a Switch Lite and Breath of the
by a
Wild.
Switch. Wow, that must have been a crazy experience.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because yeah, like I know that like some of my first memories are from like the original Mario Brothers. But like it was like my cousin playing it with me, and like he would help me
Hmm.
out and stuff. He would teach me how to play it, and like uh, I know for sure that that was my very very first game because everybody tells me that too. Because I
Hmm.
was like 3 years old. Uh, and but yeah, like those are just memories that like I won't ever be able to like accurately remember because again it was so long ago. So I can't really remember the first time I experienced a video game, but
Mm.
in a way, it's really cool that like you actually get to like experience that now, and you'll get to remember it.
Mm.
So yeah, there's advantages or disadvantages to that, but
Mm.
like, it, I did get to experience like the arcade era, because like I man, it was really strange because like they had really strange games at the arcade.
Mhm.
Uh, they had like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas on the arcade,
Mhm.
which was really bizarre. I still kind of like I remember a lot of those games, but like that's kind of where my taste in gaming comes from. Like I played a lot of like arcade games. I played a lot
Mm.
of like old school games, and I played a lot of fighting games, which is something I'm gonna get into. As we
Mhm.
uh, sooner or later here with Dono, because there's it relates a lot to fighting games. Uh, but man, what were we even talking about
I don't
earlier?
know.
We were talking about the character design. We were talking about
We talked
character
about
design.
everything. I c-
How did we get here?
I have no idea. I can try and I guess segue to like one of the questions I've written down. By the way,
Okay,
it's
well,
not like I have a lot of questions written down, but it's totally fine if you don't get through them because it's more
okay,
like just in case I have like a guest that doesn't talk a lot, so I have stuff
okay.
prepared.
I mean, like I said,
Like
I kind of like
people.
ramble on
Oh
sometimes.
yeah, yeah. No, people like I'm going to edit it and then just edit out everything that's not so important, so it's not problem at all to talk a lot.
Yeah.
I'm always worried that the guest is not gonna talk. That's my biggest fear ever. Like so when it turns
Yeah.
out that someone is very talkative, I'm always very happy.
Awesome. Yeah, I can imagine how like you're just kind of asking questions. It's just like very,
Yeah, I have
very
to give
back
like
and forth
short
questions.
answers, and it's like okay, yeah.
Yeah. But okay. Just to like go back to that one point about like character design. So like my tip for any indie developer out there is like wants to start making a game, make a character, right? Make a good
Mhm.
and appealing character because people love characters. That is
Mhm.
something that I will always advocate for. It's like make an incredible and like appealing character that
Mhm.
people can like attach themselves to, right? Because people
Mhm.
love that stuff. People love like having their favorite character on like a shirt, or like, having merchandise of their favorite character and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
when you don't have a character, it's a lot harder for people to, to attach themselves to it. And it becomes a bit forgettable if
Yeah.
it wasn't for that character. Uh, so that is my like main tip for any indie developers out there right now. Um, and it like uh, the thing about characters also is that you're never gonna get like the perfect character, right?
Mhm.
It's like some people are just not gonna like it, so you kind of have to think a lot about you know who you want your character to appeal to, um and like what will be like his traits and stuff like that. It all comes back to like character design and stuff like that. It's difficult, but like I feel that like there's a lot of people out there these days they are able to create like characters, like very appealing characters. Uh so even if you as an indie developer you aren't like as skilled at that, there's always people out there to like help you out
Mhm.
with that. Um So, but yeah, like that is a must. I think that is a must
Mhm.
for any indie developer, especially platformers,
Mhm.
um, because that's kind of like how the genre got started in the first
Mhm.
place. Um, but if you want, I can talk a little bit of like Dono's design itself because it's a very funny story too. I have
Yeah.
like a how his character design came about. So I
Mhm.
already talked about like the colors and how I chose the colors and stuff. But the actual design was really, really interesting. So I wanted a character that, like, again, for merchandise purposes. So I thought about that. I was like, okay, I want a character that's easy to make a plush toy of.
Mhm.
And so I said, okay, making him round will probably be like best option when it comes to like making like a plush toy or like merchandise of the character. So I wanted to go with a very round design. Uh, but I I first went through like a round raccoon. It was like a little ball shaped raccoon. Um, but then I decided, you know what? I'm gonna go with like a dinosaur. It's like I want some sort of like dinosaur character. So I ended up making this other like very roundish, like looking
Mm-hmm.
like crocodile kind of like character. Uh, but I wasn't satisfied with how his head shape looked. Uh, so I started looking for more options, right? I started looking for more options. Uh, one of the inspirations I had, I was like, you know what? I um man, got myself mixed up. One of the inspirations that I had was Kirby, right? So I wanted
Mm-hmm.
something like Kirby. Um, so that's why he has like very stubby arms and like really big legs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, like feet, really big feet.
He
Um,
almost looks like Kirby, just with like a head on top. I guess like the body is
that's
very
exactly
body is very much Kirby, and then there's just like a head on top, and the face is on top instead of in the
that's
middle.
exactly where I'm going with this. That is
Mm-hmm.
exactly where I'm going. So I I took I took I took Kirby, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
his design, right? I was like, okay, it's some arms. And I wasn't really satisfied with the original head he had, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
he looked like a little crocodile character. Uh and I wasn't satisfied with it. And I was like, oh man, it's like I want to make this like I want to make him look cool. Like I want his head to look cool, but like cutesy at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, man, what's a cool character I could take inspiration from? It's a cool character. I was like, cool blue. Oh man, it's like why don't I just like do the same thing that Sonic did? I'm not sure if you know how Sonic the Hedgehog was created.
I don't think I know. No.
So the creator of Sonic the Hedgehog, he he put uh he put Mickey Mouse's body. He took Mickey Mouse's body and he put Felix the cat, his head on top of it, and that's how you got Sonic the Hedgehog.
That sounds ridiculous.
And so
uh,
I said, you know what?
Felix the
I'm gonna do
cat.
the same thing. I'm gonna do the exact same
Like
thing.
Kirby, but Felix the cat, or no, like a
Uh,
dinosaur.
well, no, I'm gonna take Kirby and put Sonic's head on top of it.
Oh. So I was pretty nails on with it.
Yeah, you're on to me. Uh, but yeah, like that's how that happened. Kirby and then just Sonic on top of him,
Mm-hmm.
like on top of Sonic's head on top of Kirby, and that's how you get Dono.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I did like change like I didn't copy it, like
Mm-hmm.
copy
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
It would have looked really ridiculous if I did.
Is there
uh
like I guess is there any way, I guess, like the gameplay affected the design of your character?
no,
Because
actually,
oh,
because
okay. Yeah, because I know in,
yeah,
like, for example, in Splatoon, right? The originally, like, they had the gameplay, but then they couldn't figure out a character that fit to it. And first they tried rabbits because they had like the white fur that where the paint would stick on, and then you could paint each other.
yeah.
But and then later the idea with squids came, and they realized it's perfect because you can swim in the ink. So I was wondering if
Yeah.
maybe there's some way that the character design was influenced by the gameplay.
You see, I it was actually the opposite because the
Hmm.
the character itself influenced a lot of the gameplay. Because again,
Hmm.
at this point, like uh, at this point during development, right, where I was still creating the character, a lot of the traits from the old Mega Man game just got moved over to this one. So there was already a lot of stuff like in the game like there was the gameplay was already in the game.
Mhm.
Uh, and once I had the character created, that's when a lot of the gameplay started changing because
Mhm.
like it didn't fit the character anymore. Um, and like yeah, like um the character itself influenced a lot of the things, because like it influenced a lot of the art style, it influenced like the mechanics, um, it influenced uh yeah, it influenced a lot of like the level progression as well because I wanted to give him some sort of like collectible because before the game was really Mega Man like, and there was
Mhm.
no collectibles. There was no collectibles, nothing like that. It was just like jump and shoot and like running around and killing enemies and stuff.
Mm.
Uh, but when I had the character design after that, it was like, oh man, it's like it started to look more like a mascot platformer.
Mm.
Um, and so like I wanted him to have collectibles, sort of like Mario 64 and like Banjo Kazooie, um, stuff like that,
Was there like
or
anything like, how do I say it? I guess empathy for this new character. For example, in Kirby, there's a funny backstory of how they didn't dare to make the game difficult because they didn't want to put Kirby into difficult situation because they wanted to protect him.
well,
Like they
it's
realized
kind
that
of
became a problem during development because they had too much empathy with Kirby. Did
honestly, I'd
something
say
like
it's
that
kind of the
happen?
opposite. I'd say it's
Okay.
kind of the opposite in
Mhm.
this situation where I like I always like that contrast when it's like a cutesy character, but they're
Mhm.
doing like really crazy stuff and like you know like so one of the bosses, it is a giant polar bear, right? And
Mhm.
um he is a wrestler. He is like a wrestler character. Um and so that came about because of my like I'm a big fan of like fighting games, right?
Mhm.
And I play grappler characters. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with like what a grappler character is
Oh, I think I
in
know.
fighting games. Yeah, so like they're just the characters that are like big and bulky and like they grab like they
Mhm.
just come up to you and like grab you, right? They do like a bunch of damage and everybody hates them. Everybody hates them. Uh
Oh, so it's like a David versus Goliath thing.
Kinda. Well, like that's why I like I wanted to have those things in the game, right? And like fighting game stuff. But I also wanted Dono to be like this super cutesy character, but
Mhm.
he's like doing very like I don't want to say like violent things
Mhm.
because that sounds very wrong. But like he one of the things that like it's still in the works. I'm not sure if I'm going to add it or not. Where like um he ends up like he does like a German suplex on the polar bear to defeat the boss. Like that's it, just bah, you
Okay,
know,
so not like
or
outright violence, but like
kind of
not
like
like blood and
funny.
gore, but like funny
Yeah, no, no,
violence.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
like a slap.
I mean, very like like 18 R18 stuff can also be very funny when you have a small character, but it's probably not what you're going for, right?
Yeah,
Like
nah, like
there's like a lot of memes of like fan games of Kirby, but it's Kirby sitting 10 hours in the shower because his wife left him. Like like not that kind of stuff, right?
that's a little bit too much. No, more like Looney Tunes, I want to say. Like
Oh
very
yeah.
like Looney Tunes where they're
Hmm.
like, they're actually shooting guns. They have like shotguns and stuff like that. I'm not gonna add any guns to it, like Dono, but like
Mm.
just as an example, like where like it's like oh they're shooting like a shotgun in
Hmm.
like like Bugs
I
Bunny like
guess
reverses the shotgun.
you're like keeping it like very very PG, and but then
Yeah,
because you're keeping trying to keeping everything PG, when there's like a small moment where it's not like where it's a little bit more violent, it hits that much harder.
yeah. So it's kind of that thing where like it's I just find it like it's like a comedic like
Mm.
comedic violence, I want to say. It's like slapstick violence. That's kind of what I wanted to go for.
Mhm.
Where like, oh, it's like, oh, you're gonna defeat the boss. It's like, oh, German suplex,
Mhm.
because it looks so funny when like such a small
Mhm.
character just like German suplexes
Do you
like
have
a
footage of
giant
that?
character.
That would be really good. Maybe on
Uh,
the Twitter.
I
Oh
I
yeah, you
don't.
haven't added
I
it yet. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I haven't added it yet. I might have some concept art that I can look for where like
Mhm.
he's doing like a bunch of different wrestling moves against that boss specifically.
Mhm.
But like I always wanted stuff like that, like like a contrast between his like soft appearance and a more like a you know again I'm not sure how to like describe it, like a slapstick comedic violence. Um like there is like some, how do I explain it? You know what? There's a good example of what I'm talking about. I don't know if you've ever played Donkey Kong Jungle Beat.
Mm.
It's on the GameCube.
Is it like a
And
rhythm
so
game?
like kinda it's a rhythm platformer. Uh and you control the game with bongos, right? So you have like some bongos and then and so like you press like you slap the right bongo to go right, and then you slap the left bongo to go left, and then
Mhm.
I'm not sure it's if either you clap or you press both bongos to jump, but it's one of those two. But so the funny part about that game is like whenever you're fighting something, Donkey Kong just kind of like jumps on top of him and just starts smacking them. It just
Mhm.
like you're smacking the bongos, and at the same time, Donkey Kong is just punching them. He's just wailing on them. And so I've always loved that. I've
Mhm.
always absolutely loved that because it looks so funny. And like in that game specifically, they portray Donkey Kong like very small. It's like he's really small compared to like everything else in the game. Uh,
Mhm.
so like I've always found that like super super funny. Uh, and that's one of the elements that I wanted to add to Dono because yeah, he's a cutesy character. He's really soft and squishy, but I wanted to add that little slapstick side
Okay,
to
so it's
it. Just to
squishy and not furry.
he's squishy because he doesn't have any fur.
Yeah.
He's a
Mhm.
reptile. He doesn't have any fur.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah,
Dragon, of course. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, so like I think I will add like Dono into like harder situations, like more
Mhm.
like, oh, there's like a bunch of spikes and stuff like that. Um, it- Things like those. Like I don't mind it because it's supposed to be like slapstick and stuff. And again, there will be like that one mode, the Kaizo mode that I'm
Mhm.
planning to have
Oh yeah,
in
I
the
saw
game,
that.
which is yeah. Um,
That is really cool. They
yeah,
have a
that
Kaizo
again,
mode in it.
yeah, like I like I said earlier, I love difficult games. So having um having like a Kaizo mode because well, there's two reasons why I wanted to add that Kaizo mode because uh I felt like the since I wanted to make the game accessible to anybody, where like it doesn't matter if it's kids or adults, right? Uh I want to, let them beat the game.
Mhm.
And I felt that like for more like pro players, that might have been somewhat disappointing, right? Because the game has like a lot of depth when it comes to its mechanics.
Mhm.
Um, and I felt like, well, some players might not get like the opportunity to just push the game to its limits. So I said, you know what? I think I want to add a Kaizo mode, you know, because I want the game to be pushed to its absolute limits, to
Mm.
like,
Are you
as difficult as it possibly can.
Mhm. Are you also like designing with speedrunning in mind to some extent, or like I
Yes,
guess
that
adding
is
shortcuts, or I've heard shortcuts aren't actually the best way, but like stuff like that, I guess.
yes. Like that's one of the main priorities that I have. I designed the game from the ground up from like the very start, I said I want this to be a speed game. Like
Mm-hmm.
I always loved stuff like that.
So like
One of the like
Sonic
the
without the annoying speed reduction.
kind
Like
of yeah
in Sonic, like you gain a lot of speed, but then you lose it really really fast as well.
yeah yeah. Like I've always loved games where like you can just you know uh fly through the game, right? Like you can
Mm-hmm.
fly through the game if you're good enough. You'll be able to just keep moving forward. Like you won't ever have to
Mm-hmm.
like
Oh yeah,
stop
and
pressing forward.
mm-hmm. Yeah, in Mario 3D Land, they actually I think they had like a timer for each. No, not timer, stopwatch for all of the levels, and it would like record like what your best like your best
Oh
time
yeah,
was. So when I was a kid,
mhm,
I kept doing that, or like kept playing the first level over and over again to get the best time,
yeah,
and like the other
yeah, and
levels
it's
as
so
well.
fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really fun to just see yourself improve. That's one of the things I've always loved. I have a lot of patience for like,
Mm-hmm.
for like difficult games. So like I could sit there, no, it doesn't matter how hard the game might be. I can sit there for hours and like
Mm-hmm.
keep trying the same level over and over again until like I master it. So like uh that's one of the things that I wanted to like add into the game. Uh for the people who want to get really, really good at the game.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they can get like the best times and like speed runs and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I've always really been into like the speed run, aspect of things. I've always loved that. Again, it's kind of like that thing where like I love difficult games, and so naturally I'm like uh I'm attracted to like speed running and fighting games because those are probably like the two most difficult
Mm-hmm.
aspects of gaming itself, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
um, fighting games are really hard. They're
Mm-hmm.
really hard because like
Yeah.
you know y- you're actually fighting another person, right? You're going up against another human being. So instead of just going up against like the game itself or like the environment or the enemies in the game, you're going up against a real life person. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, like I guess going back to like what we were talking about, like the Kaizo mode,
Mm-hmm.
uh, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to add it, push the games to its limits. Not only that, but as far as I'm aware, there doesn't seem to be any other game out there that has an official Kaizo mode. I
Yeah.
don't think
No.
I've ever seen one.
There's only there's only games that specifically are Kaizo, I think, and
Yeah,
most of them are ROM hacks.
yeah, that's what I've always seen. I've always seen that they're always ROM hacks. Uh, and so again, going back to the thing where like I wanted
Mm-hmm.
my game to stand out and be a bit unique. So that's the Yoshi's Island, inspiration. It stands out, and I also wanted to add like that Kaizo mode because I don't think any other game has added it. Like or has added it yet. Maybe there's like a game that comes out tomorrow, and they're like, oh yeah, we got Kaizo mode.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as I'm aware, there isn't any yet. Um, but yeah, is
Yeah.
there any other questions? you wanna
My tablet where I have the questions written down died,
Oh no.
but it's not really a problem. We're actually like an hour 20 in now, and I
I
will be
think I should.
trying. Oh no, it's totally fine. I will try and edit it into like a 30-minute video,
Yeah.
but
Man, we talked so much about like all these other things. I think I should talk about the game itself.
no, I think that there's like it's not directly about the game itself, but it's a lot of it that leads to the game, I guess.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
I
I
do
guess.
have. Oh yes. Oh sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, you can say first.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say that like I guess there is a couple things that I just wanted to mention about the game.
Hmm.
Uh, but like I'll try to get through all of that as quickly as possible because again, it's like I talk a lot. I ended up going like on these rants to like
Uh-huh.
all these other stuff. But yeah, go ahead. What were you saying?
Oh no, I was going to say the last question, but if you have more stuff to say, I would love to hear. Maybe there's some golden there.
Uh yeah, yeah. So like man, uh where do I start? Where do I start? Yeah, so like the game itself, right? There's oh man, it's just that there's so much things to talk about
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to the game itself.
I
Um
think the main thing here is probably the character, like the character design in
yeah,
general. I feel like that's the main topic I will make the video about probably.
okay. Okay.
But
Yeah.
we'll
Cuz
see.
like again,
Maybe you have something other that.
okay, because like I haven't even touched into like the gameplay itself, the
Mm-hmm.
inspirations behind the gameplay, because uh,
Mm.
there's
I guess.
so
I
for
guess.
example,
Oh, I mean, I could ask another question that just came to my mind, or you could tell your stuff.
yeah,
I'm not sure
go ahead,
which order to do. Okay,
go
one
ahead.
question that I find really interesting. Mario 64, they spent like half of the development time just making the movement. Um, so how do you, I guess, like design or like what goes into like making the movement for a game? Like how do you make it good? Because when I look at the tweets and the videos, it actually looks really fun. It looks like I just want to get my hands on it and just like like play around.
Yeah, so like that's one of the things that I again that's one of my biggest like game design philosophies where like if your character does not feel good, then like you
Mhm.
you have to make it feel good. That I spent I kid you not, I spent I think about a year on the character controls alone,
Mhm.
like just experimenting and trying to figure out what feels good and
Mhm.
you know like how to combine everything and just make it all cohesive so that like as soon as somebody picks up a controller, they'll just start playing and they won't even think twice about it, they'll like start playing, it'll immediately
Mhm.
um it is one of the things that I've like that's how you know that a game is good right off the bat when you're having fun
Mhm.
just by jumping around and controlling your character.
Mhm.
uh, And as far as how I went about it, uh, again, I took the basics, right? I looked at games that already had good controls, right? So I
Yeah.
looked at Mega Man X, Donkey Kong Country, Yoshi's Island, Mario Brothers 3, and Mario World. Um, I looked at all those games and I said, well, w- what aspects of these games work? What aspects are fun and what
Mhm.
aspects would I like to have in my game? Uh, and so uh, again, the very first ability that I got was the dash, right, from Mega Man X. So uh, I looked at that, I looked at the dash, and I said, okay, I want to replicate that dash. I wanted to, you know, uh, have that sense of speed in the game. Um, and so I said, okay, I took that dash, I made it, I tweaked it, and at first it worked exactly like it does in Mega Man X, like it the exact
Mhm.
same way. Um, but then I said, okay, what are similar mechanics in other games that I would want to, so I can modify this mechanic. And so I looked at Donkey Kong Country, and Donkey Kong has a little roll, right? He can roll, and
Mhm.
the cool part of the roll is that if you roll off a ledge and you're in midair, but you're still rolling, you can jump out of it, right? So
Mhm.
you get you get like a midair jump. Uh, and I said, you know what? I want that. I want that mechanic, and I think it would mesh like really really well with Mega Man X's dash. Um, and uh, and I said, okay. I took those two mechanics and then I put them in the game. Uh, and then I kept doing like small little tweaks to make sure everything felt right. and boom, like it feels incredible, right? It's super fun, and I was already having fun. I put like a couple blocks in a test level, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to make it to this block. And so, he's dashing, he's like jumping in midair now and doing all this stuff. And I'm like, man, this is so fun. It is so fun that I bet like I could make an entire game just with this, right?
Mhm.
And that's how I knew that I was on the right track. I was like, okay, I'm having a lot of fun. It feels great. Uh, and then I said, you know what if I add a mid-air jump, right? Like, what if I
Mhm.
add a mid-air jump so that you can string those together? So you can dash off a ledge, jump in midair, right, from like the dash, and then you will use like another jump. You get another jump, so you could get even further. And I said, man, that would be so cool. Uh, and so I added, like a little double jump. Boom, the double jump is in the game. And then I started messing with that. I was like, oh man, now I can string my two abilities together. Um, and that's kind of where I had that moment where it's like, that's exactly what I want the game to be. I want the
Mhm.
game to have all these abilities that are like they work together uh to create this like incredible like movement. Uh and I started adding more abilities, right? I started more abilities, and I had at some point I had a bunch of different abilities. Like there was a bunch of different abilities, but I came to realize that it's a lot harder uh to combine abilities when you have too many.
Mhm.
Um, so I said, okay, I have to limit myself to a certain amount of abilities to just make it easier on people that like want to get good at the game. And at first, that's kind of what the game was going to be. It's just like you combining abilities. But I realized that like the character was very cute, right? It was
Mhm.
very cutesy, and that like it would appeal to a lot of kids. But then if a kid picked up the game, they weren't gonna necessarily be able to like play the game because kids have a lot of like a rough time pressing more than one button at a time.
Mm.
Uh, and so that's when I decided it's like, okay, I need to tone down the game. I need to make the game accessible for anyone, but I will keep the depth and the mechanics from the original prototype. Uh, this way, people who want to get good at the game can get good at the game, but people who aren't able to do all that all that button pressing, they don't really have to do it because the game is easy enough so that
Mm.
it won't ever ask you to string two abilities together. It won't ever
Yeah.
ask you to do stuff like that. But back to like the gameplay, where I was talking about the gameplay. Um, yeah, that's kind of how I ended up building on the gameplay. I looked at what worked before from older games. I copied it, like copied it exactly like it is in that original game, and then I looked at other mechanics from different games uh, that I could combine together, right? So I'm combining, two mechanics from different games and seeing what works, right? Because, you know, those mechanics are already proven, right? Like everybody likes the dash from Mega Man X, right? Like that people like it. So, if you take exactly like that mechanic exactly and put it into my game, well, there's a good chance that people will like it here too, right? Because it's the
Mhm.
same mechanic. There's not much of a
Yeah, that
difference.
makes a lot of sense.
But once you combine it with something else, it makes it more original, right?
Mhm.
It makes it new. Now you have these things that you can't do in Mega Man X, right? So
Mhm.
you keep the appeal of the original mechanic, but you're adding to it. And that's kind of how like my whole philosophy for this game has been, where like I don't really want to reinvent the wheel, right? I don't want
Mm.
to like, uh I don't want to like try to make things like too original, right? Because that's one of the things that like a lot of indie games have, that they're really original and they come up with this, like crazy mechanics. Um in like this crazy different style of gameplay and stuff like that. But like I really I kind of didn't want to do that, right?
Mm.
What I wanted to do is I wanted to advance like how do I say it? I wanted to bring back that classic gameplay from like old school games, but make it feel fresh and new, right?
Mm.
Sort of like a sequel, kind of like
Yeah.
what a sequel would be, right? Like I wanted this game to feel like a game that would have been released like back in the 90s, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to like mechanics, art direction, and all that stuff. Um, so uh, that's how again, I did look at like a lot of games, like you were saying, talk about like Mario 64
Mm.
originally. That I that's one of my favorite games of all time. Like I sometimes I just go back and just play the game, beat the game 100% just for fun. And I look at that game a lot for inspiration. Um, and the amount of depth in mechanics and stuff like that that game has. Because it technically in that game you really only ever need to like jump, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just kind of like jump. Uh, but he also has wall jumps. He also has like a slide, like a long jump. He has like all these different types of moves that aren't really necessary, but they're just there for you to like have fun,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's what I was going for in my game. Just add
Yeah.
all these mechanics. They're just for fun. Just have fun, right? You
Mm-hmm.
don't worry about like, all these things. This game is just meant to be fun. It's not meant to tell a huge like story like a lot of like games do these days, right? Like there is like a lot of indie games that have these like beautiful stories and that um they're trying to give like a message to people and stuff like that. Uh, but my game is not really that. My game is
Mm.
just a fun game. That's what it is. It's meant to be a a fun game. It's meant to be a game where you pick it up and you forget about everything. You're just having fun.
Yeah, that's as far as I know how Shigeru Miyamoto also designs or
Yeah,
designed the Mario games is just try and do whatever seems fun.
yeah, yeah. And again, like that's another thing about like the Nintendo philosophy, where like whenever they
Right,
start making a
it's
sequel,
fun first or like play first or whatever they call it.
yeah, yeah, play first, yeah.
Play
And
first.
again, I like I was talking about earlier, where like I wanted my game to feel more like a sequel to older games.
Mm.
Uh, that's kind of like the thing that Nintendo also does, where like when they
Mm-hmm.
create a sequel, they keep the skeleton of the game, the first game, right? But they always want to add something new, right? Something different that changes
Mm.
the way that you play the game. So for example, Mario 64, right? You had Mario 64, boom, it was a great game. And then
Mm.
for the sequel, Mario Sunshine, they were like, how can we make the game new? How can we make it fresh again? We'll keep
Mm-hmm.
the same skeleton of the game. And it's like, but like, let's find something to make it new. And so they were like, okay, just give him a jetpack. um, and then and then they did Mario Galaxy, right? And they're like, okay, how do we
Mm-hmm.
make this one fresh, right? They're like, oh, okay, well, we have the basic controls, right? Mario controls the same, he has all his same moves. But what if we make him in like zero gravity, right? We make
Mm-hmm.
him run around planets and stuff,
Oh yeah.
you know? So again, it's the same basic gameplay, right? But they're adding something new to it. to make it fresh. And that's exactly what I
Mhm.
was going for with my game. Even though my game is like the first one, it's not really a sequel or anything, but like I wanted it to like bring
Mhm.
back all those classic mechanics and just make it feel fresh in a new way. Um
Yeah.
and yeah, like again, I one of my biggest inspirations for the game, uh it's gonna sound really ridiculous because it's a completely different like a genre of game. Uh is Super Smash Brothers Melee. I don't know if you've ever played Melee.
I haven't played Melee, but I've played Ultimate a lot. I think I have like
Okay.
100 plus hours in Ultimate.
Okay. Have you ever seen gameplay like for Melee?
I have seen a lot of gameplay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so like that game is insane.
Mhm.
Just say this right now. That game is insane, right? It's like I have scars on my fingers from that game. I'm not even kidding right now.
Mhm.
Like so I wanted that. Like that's exactly what I wanted. Uh like I wanted this
Scars on
like
the fingers
very
of your players.
no, I wanted not exactly. I wanted my game to have that feeling of like Melee because that game has so much depth.
Mhm.
It is ridiculous. It is so unnecessary, right? Like there's changes. Like the characters change depending on what character, like what port your controller is in. So if you're player four, your character might have different um differences than if you were playing on like player one. That's how insane that game is. Like
Mhm.
there is just crazy stuff in that game. Uh, and it's very complicated and it's very in depth. And that's exactly what I wanted for my game. I wanted that speed. I wanted that like gameplay. That
Mhm.
you know, I
Yeah,
want
like
my game
fast
to be
paced.
yeah, I want my game to be a game that like people will enjoy like studying in a way, right?
Mhm.
They will enjoy like taking it apart like piece by piece and figuring out like every little detail in the game. Like, oh, well, Dono he runs at like 8 pixels per per
Mhm.
frame, and like if you can grab the wall from like the other side or like complicated stuff like that that it goes back to like speedrunners. It goes back to like all these crazy things. It's it's hard to explain, but like I'm sure you can tell that like I'm really passionate about like
Mhm.
all these like mechanics and
Mm.
systems.
Yeah.
um it's it's gonna be a crazy game, honestly.
Mhm.
That's probably as much as I can say. It's just gonna have like a lot of stuff for like everybody to enjoy. Like everyone is gonna be able to play the game. Those the like kids. I've had kids. They're like 5 years old, right? At
Mhm.
like conventions. We're like at conventions. This kid he grabs a controller. He sits down on the floor. And he's just playing it for hours. Like they're like 5 or 6 years old. I'm like, man, it's like, he's 5 or 6 years old. He loves the game, right? And then we get like some
Mhm.
adults, right? We get some adults, and then they come and they're like, oh man, it's like I play fighting games. It's like
Yeah,
this game is really cool. You can cancel. Go ahead.
there's probably adults that would like to sit down for 5 hours as well, but it's just not socially acceptable as an
Yeah,
adult.
yeah, it's not possible. Oh, that's why I'm trying to get it on the Switch so that you can take it on
Uh
the go.
yeah. Can play
Put it on the
everywhere
Switch.
at
You can
all
take it
every
in.
time.
Yeah,
I should get
yeah,
sponsored by Switch
yeah. And
by Nintendo.
again, I love the fact that like the Switch exists because
Mm.
uh, I grew up again, like I said, with my little Game Boy Advance. I grew up playing Yoshi's Island on that Game
Mhm.
Boy Advance. You know, it's so fitting that my game would come out on a portable system like the
Yeah.
Nintendo Switch because that's exactly what I grew up with, right?
Mhm.
And to me, it would be like so like just incredible if like
Mm-hmm.
this next generation of kids, right, will grow up with my game on the Nintendo Switch, the
Mm-hmm.
same way that I grew up with Yoshi's Island on the Game Boy Advance. Um, that that gets me every time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just like that's my ultimate goal, really. Uh, but yeah, like man, I go from left to right and like I'm going all over the place. I should have
Oh.
wrote all this stuff down to like but but uh, anyways, just to like finish up,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like I want the game to be played by anyone, it's like kids,
Mm-hmm.
6 years old, young kids,
Yeah.
older adults. They want to get into like they want to have some fun, nostalgic fun, really. Uh, and then there's also the speedrunners who love figuring out all these mechanics, the fighting game fans who like to do like move cancels, and they like to like
Mm.
figure out like strategies and then all this stuff. So yeah, like there's something for everyone in the game.
Mm-hmm. A little bit for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So the last question, I think we're very far, and I think I have more than enough for a good video. The
okay.
last question is, so I always add like a last question at the end because it's called
Okay.
Backstage Plus. So
Okay.
it's like the little plus at the end. So that question is usually like not very relevant to the game itself. And this time the
All right.
question is, what is your favorite mascot, like from a company or a team or anything, and why?
Oh, that's gotta be my. uh, I know everybody, like a lot of people are gonna be like, "Oh man, really? He went for that one, like the most
Hmm.
basic one." But it would have to be Mario.
Mario.
Mario
Yeah.
is yeah, Mario is my like biggest inspiration, right? Like
Probably
oh, go ahead.
probably also the most unconventional one, since most mascots are cute and everything, and while Mario, he's cute, but he's also a middle-aged man
He's a middle-aged plumber. Like
with a
what?
with a mustache.
It makes absolutely no sense that he
Yeah.
is as popular as he is. Like there's no
Mhm.
reason for him
He's
to
not
be.
technically cute as well. But he's very
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. Again, like I absolutely love Mario. I grew up with like playing his games all the time. Like he is my inspiration when it comes to like video
Hmm.
games. Like main inspiration. Like you were talking about like Mario 64. Uh, it just feels good to control the character and stuff like that. It's like
Mm.
I always take my video game philosophies from like Mario games. Like
Mm.
that's literally how I learned game design in the first place, just by looking and playing like Mario games.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I would have to go with Mario.
Yeah. Okay, and with that, I think we're finished with the interview. I think I've got more than
Awesome.
enough.
I'm pretty sure you do. We've been
Yeah.
here for almost 2 hours. I'm
Hmm.
sorry that I rambled a lot.
Oh no, that's the thing. Like everyone says sorry, but in actuality, I'm so happy because I worry way too much about having to prepare questions and everything in advance because I'm so scared I won't get enough out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I also sometimes wish that I could get like my thoughts across a lot clearer,
Mm.
right? Because like sometimes I'm thinking about it, like I'm I'm
Hmm.
speaking as I'm thinking. Uh,
Yeah, that's kind of going to be my job as like the editor to like pick out the most important things and like
yeah,
try to make the message clearer.
yeah, okay, yeah,
Like
yeah.
pick
Because
pick
like
out
I
like
know
the.
that I was going
Mhm.
from place to place sometimes, and I
Mhm.
was oh man,
Yeah.
um,
I mean, I do that
but
too a lot, but.
yeah. Oh man, but like, yeah, this one's fun, especially like, um, going back to what I was talking about.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, like, English is technically not my like first language.
Oh, not mine either.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
Where
mine is
where
huh?
are you?
My
What's
my
yours?
my my two first languages are Norwegian and German.
Oh, that's awesome. I have
Mm-hmm.
a friend who wants to learn German.
Mm.
Uh, but like he's just really lazy. So, but like
I'm trying to learn Japanese,
I
but I'm also a bit too lazy.
oh man, Japanese is hard. I've been trying
Mm-hmm.
to like learn that for a while, but like I just have like I bought some books and everything, and they're just sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't touched them because I haven't had the time working on an indie game.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but I I speak like I speak Spanish. That's like my other
Mm-hmm.
like language. Um, I also, I mean, I know some French and I know some like Portuguese,
Mm-hmm.
but
I would
I'm
say
not very like
definitely.
fluent.
Uh, and I would say you sound like you could be from like America.
You think so?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I did not
a
notice
lot of
any accent at all.
yeah, a lot of people do tell me that like I don't have an accent,
Mm.
or well, not as much of an accent as like other people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I mean I am like Hispanic, right?
Mm.
Uh, so like so yeah, like there's some people here in America, they have like a very heavy like Hispanic accent.
Mm.
Uh, and yeah, like some people just they're like, oh yeah, you sound
But
American.
you're not from America, right? From Spain or
No, I am from
like South
Mexico.
America? Oh, okay, yeah.
Mexico,
Does
yeah.
that um, I'm that is a very dumb question, but does Mexico count as North or South America?
It counts as north. It is
Oh, okay. I thought
the
it was
last,
South.
yeah. It is the last like North
Mm-hmm.
American, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because I'm pretty sure Peru, like everything under Peru is south.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, no, 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 no. Would it be? I think it is.
Probably.
Yeah, because I know like Brazil, Argentina, and all those should be South America.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, yeah. Like I'm from Mexico, but like I currently live here in like the
Mm-hmm.
U.S. Yeah.
Yeah.
So so that's kind of what I was talking about earlier about like the arcades. Like the arcade era did not end in Mexico like in the 90s. It ended until 2000 like
Mm-hmm.
15,
Yeah.
2012 or so.
Mm-hmm.
uh but yeah,
Yeah.
uh
No, it's
it
getting
was
kind
fun.
of yeah. That was very
Yeah.
fun. It's getting kind of late for me.
I
Uh
completely forgot. Like I'm so sorry about that. I
oh no,
completely
it's
forgot that
totally
you're
fine.
like on a completely different time zone.
It's
It's
not
barely
it's not
gonna be
very
lunchtime.
late, but yeah. No, I
Yeah,
think
like
it was very fun. I was going to say we could maybe like if there's like a fitting timing, like maybe like when you release the game or something, we could do like another interview maybe in the future. Something like that. I
yeah.
was thinking because I felt like there was I feel like you barely touched the surface
Oh,
of the stuff
there's
you
a
wanted to tell.
lot of the game. You see, I next time, do you know what'd be really awesome?
Mhm.
If we could figure out some way so that I could like send you gameplay with
Mhm.
while like maybe I'm recording the gameplay and
Mhm.
recording like the voiceover,
Yeah.
and then I can send it to you. Like that way we could actually have like
Mhm.
my gameplay showing while we're talking about the game.
Mm.
Um
I
this
mean,
way, like
yeah. No, I think
yeah,
I
because there's
can
a
get
lot of
some gameplay out of the tweets and
yeah,
stuff. I could maybe ask some of
yeah.
the streamers or YouTubers that have played it if it's fine if I show it.
I mean, if you want, like I could always send you like a
Mhm.
key, and you could like that way you
Mhm.
can record a gameplay on your own time, and you can
Mhm.
just show off and actually get to like check out like some of the
Mhm.
mechanics and stuff. Because
Yeah, I
again,
would love to.
there there's a lot of depth in those mechanics,
Mhm.
and like it's very hard to explain without having some sort of visual aid. Uh, so like yeah, that's what I was talking about next time. Was like that way I could have like
Mhm.
a gameplay like explaining what's
Yeah.
going on the screen next time.
No, I think it would
Uh,
be really cool to like do another interview, but it should definitely be at like a good timing, I guess. Like some
oh
when there's like some kind of milestone in the
yeah,
in your game development. like if there's
Okay.
like a demo coming out or if the game is releasing or something like that.
Yeah, because like I guess this was a great time for this interview because like the
Mm-hmm.
game will be at Sage 2022, so that's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be like this online event for
Yeah.
like games. The
Mm-hmm.
demo is gonna should be out on
And
September
also
2nd.
also that the Kickstarter is soon, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing. Right.
This is like my YouTuber. I mean, I'm not really a YouTuber yet really, but or it will be at any point. But this is like the YouTuber brain, just like thinking with when the right timing is, right? Because when I
Yeah.
interviewed Kindred Fates, it's like 2 years after the Kickstarter launched, and I looked at their like Discord statistics. If I had gotten to do the interview like 2 years before, I would probably had like 1,000 viewers on Twitch, and now it was just like 17 because like the activity is so much higher during those
Yeah.
like check marks landmarks.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, that's the thing. I'm not so sure. Because like right now we're just trying to get like 350 followers on the Kickstarter. That's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
our goal before
Mm-hmm.
we launch the Kickstarter. Because we got that recommended by like a PR team. They told us they were like, oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of should have this amount of like
Yeah.
followers on the Kickstarter before you
Mm-hmm.
launch. So we're not so sure about that, like when we're gonna launch. But the next, like you were saying, like milestone, I guess, would be the public demo, which would
Mm-hmm.
be at Sage, and that's on September 2nd. So we
Mm-hmm.
might end up getting like some traffic or like some searches for Dono
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube
Yeah.
during that time.
I do
Yeah,
still want to try and have some distance though. Well, we can talk about it later, I guess, when we'll do another
yeah,
interview.
yeah.
Like
That's
it
fine.
shouldn't be. It should be like a little while at least after before the next interview. Like there
Yeah,
should be a couple of other interview guests before.
yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
because well, one of the things that I was just gonna quickly mention, if during Sage we do get that uh we do get like the 350 subscribers, we're most
Mm-hmm.
likely gonna end up launching that same month the
Mm-hmm.
Kickstarter.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're waiting on right now. Like
Mm.
If we're popular at Sage, we're gonna take advantage of that and launch the Kickstarter. But
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you
Yeah.
know whenever
Wait,
that happens.
when is the Sage Day?
September 2nd.
September. Oh, that's my birthday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow,
That's interesting.
man. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, I also
I
noticed on
mean,
Twitter it said like the birthday of your account was also September 2nd.
yes, that is when the character was created.
Oh,
Yes, that
it's
is.
fate.
It's
It's fa-
Dona's
it's
birthday. It's
it's fate that I'm doing this interview.
yeah, like yeah, September 2nd. My actual birthday is December 31st.
Hmm.
Uh, so like I don't turn like year like I don't get older until the very
Mm-hmm.
last day of the year.
Yeah, I'm getting
Uh,
20 like this September now.
so yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, like I guess like I'm technically a 90s kid because
Hmm.
I was born in 99, but like I
Yeah.
was born like the last day of the year.
Oh.
The last day of the year. Um
Yeah.
man, but yeah, I mean it's fun. I mean, hey,
Hmm.
I'm gonna I'll send you like a little birthday thing, little birthday surprise
Thank
on
you.
your birthday. Same day as Donna's birthday.
Uh-huh. Yeah. No, that
So
was really
yeah,
fun.
awesome. Awesome, yeah.
It
I mean,
would be
I guess
nice to
I'll let
talk again sometime.
yeah, definitely, definitely. And like whenever I get the chance, I'll probably send you a Steam key so that you can
Hmm.
try the game out on Steam. Uh
Yeah,
if I
that would
can't
be
get that
really
Steam
cool.
key,
Then
yeah, if I can't
I
get
can
this
also be like how do I say it? Like go to my friends and be like, hey, I get exclusive con.
yeah, yeah, I'll most likely get that Steam key
Hmm.
soon. Um I'm gonna check because I have to order them from like the Steam website.
Hmm.
They're like, oh yeah, you gotta order these Steam keys or whatever to get
Hmm.
access to it.
Yeah.
Uh, but Yeah, I'll let you go. I'll let you get some rest because I keep forgetting it's really late at your
Oh no, it's
place. It's
fine.
it's really lunchtime. Yes,
Mm.
it's really lunchtime over here where I am at. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, well, yeah, we'll talk again. We'll figure things
Hmm.
out, and yeah, we'll stay in contact.
All right. Bye bye.
All right, awesome. Thanks for this again.
Yeah.
It
Thanks.
was
Thanks too.
great talking to you.
Hmm.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.